If you've clicked your way here, it means that you either have a loved one who suffers from C-PTSD or you suspect that you might have it yourself. Either way, I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started on the 5 things that you should know about C-PTSD. But this video requires a warning because I'll be explaining C-PTSD to you as a person who's lived it, not as a person who has studied it. I don't think that this subtracts from what I have to say about it. I think it actually enriches it, but you can be the judge of that. First thing you need to know, what the heck is it? It stands for complex post-traumatic stress disorder. In the simplest terms, it's a mental health disorder that arises from prolonged and repeated trauma. And this trauma typically took place during childhood. So how does it then differ from PTSD? Because many of us know PTSD as the thing that veterans get when they come home from war. Well, PTSD is caused by a single traumatic event. And it's not just war that can cause it. A traffic accident, a death in the family, even a traumatic childbirth are all things that can cause PTSD. Complex PTSD, on the other hand, is caused by more than one traumatic event, often over a longer period of time. Another important distinction is that C-PTSD usually originates in childhood, whereas PTSD is something that you get as an adult. Not always, but usually. A textbook definition will tell you that C-PTSD is a mental health condition where a person has difficulty managing their emotions, difficulty in relationships, and a negative self-view. But I'm going to add to that C-PTSD is a mental health condition where your brain is putting you in the survival mode or the fight or flight response for everyday things that do not warrant survival mode. And that is what is causing all of those difficulties that are listed in your textbook definition. For example, maybe you want to talk to your partner about the dirty dishes they left in the sink, but you can't do it calmly because your brain is putting you in fight or flight mode at the idea of a potential conflict. And then instead, you're either yelling at your partner or breaking up with them because of dishes. And you're confused as to why you can't just be a normal human being about it. You think you're broken. You believe that deeply. As of this moment, C-PTSD is not in the DSM. And the DSM is important because this is your big bad book of mental health disorders used by professionals in order to diagnose people. PTSD is in there. C-PTSD is not. Despite this, mental health professionals are still diagnosing people with it. So even though it's not in DSM-5, fingers crossed it'll be in version 6. If you need a diagnosis, make sure to ask your doctor. The second thing you should know is what causes C-PTSD. We touched on this a little already. It's caused by prolonged and repeated trauma. Trauma is a life-threatening event, or at least perceived by the brain as though it's life-threatening. Because trauma doesn't necessarily need to be a literal life-threatening event. If your brain has perceived it as one, you could still be traumatized by it. And trauma completely messes up your sense of safety. It causes a neurological wiring in your brain that anything associated with that traumatic event could indicate a potential threat to your safety in the future, therefore warranting the fight or flight response. I think an example might be good here. So imagine a kid who gets a smack anytime they spill their milk. This small event, depending on additional context, could create a neurological wiring in that child's brain that spilling your milk involves pain and therefore is something to fear. As that child grows into an adult, the wiring is still there. And so a spilled glass of milk triggers that old wiring, sending the adult into fight or flight. And this can involve a completely unhealthy display of rage that isn't at all proportional to the reality of the situation. The reality, of course, being that spilt milk is not an actual threat to survival, but it is now a perceived threat for that person. I know it's not a threat. You know it's not a threat. Even the person with C-PTSD knows it's not a threat. But their neurons, their subconscious, they don't. I bet you're starting to realize that C-PTSD could look different for different people. And you're absolutely right. You may also be thinking, wait, if that person has a kid and freaks out on their kid when milk is spilled, won't that just cause the same thing to happen in their kid's brain? And congratulations, you've just discovered generational trauma. This is why a lot of people with C-PTSD don't want kids. A caregiver who is unstable, is a source of fear instead of safety in a child's life, is unknowingly creating the perfect conditions for their child to develop C-PTSD. Your brain made these neurological pathways to protect you. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. And I want you to listen closely because this next sentence is the most important in the entire video. People with C-PTSD are not broken. They've just had a lot of things happen to them that shouldn't have happened. The third thing you need to know about C-PTSD are the symptoms. And it's so important to note that just because you have one or two of these symptoms, or maybe even more, it doesn't mean that you automatically have C-PTSD. Okay, I don't want any TikTok self-diagnosing going on here, please. We have the main symptoms. First is flashbacks. And flashbacks don't necessarily have to have visual imagery associated with them. What it is your mind and body are reliving whatever it was that traumatized you. So that neurological pathway made in childhood, you're just going right down it again, experiencing the same sensations like a racing heartbeat, muscle tension, or heightened emotions, all things that would indicate that you're in the fight or flight state because your brain thinks you're in danger. Next is nightmares. They can be related to the traumatic event, but not necessarily. For years, I had dreams where I had to protect children from a monster or a bad person. They were very upsetting dreams. I think it's obvious that they were linked to events from my childhood, but they didn't depict those past experiences directly. We have intrusive thoughts, and they're often repetitive, like ruminating on an event or a conversation. Hypervigilance, which means you are super sensitive to your surroundings, especially other people. Constant guilt, and this is the one that I would say causes me the most pain in my life. Moving on, we have avoidance of things, so people, places, sounds, thoughts, numbing or dissociating, difficulty trusting people, and therefore difficulty in relationships, self-destructive behavior. Now this can be addiction, but also risk-taking behaviors like driving dangerously. And if you're interested, I do have a video on road rage, so you can check that one out after this. Trouble regulating your emotions, a negative view of the self, and of course, it's often accompanied by depression and anxiety. These are the defining features that most people with C-PTSD are going to have. Not all, because it is a nuanced condition, but most. And honestly, there are so many other symptoms, like sleep problems. So insomnia, hypersomnia, fatigue, also behavioral problems like eating too much or not at all, or excessively exercising, or not exercising at all. It's such a strange illness because depending on the person, you can have symptoms that are at completely opposite ends of any given spectrum. But I think that what it boils down to, in my opinion, is the use of a coping mechanism. So sleep, food, exercise, these are things that can be used in excess by a person with C-PTSD in order to cope with the fact that they're constantly in that fight or flight mode. Does that make sense? The fourth thing you should know about C-PTSD is how is it treated? Well, let's start with therapy. Therapy has gotten me pretty far in my road to recovery once I found the right therapist. And I want to emphasize that because I've been to probably about a dozen therapists in my life, and only one of them has made a significant positive impact on my health. Some of them have actually caused me to get worse. So I struggle with this concept of therapy as treatment. I mean, I can't deny the progress that I've made because of my current therapist, but I have also experienced damage at the hands of therapists. Another form of therapy is group therapy, and it has helped me a lot. Group was crucial to help me see that I am not broken, that I'm unique, but I'm not unusual. However, after being part of group therapy for 2 years, I did find the benefits starting to lessen. I won't get into it now. I'll just say that the benefits of group therapy had a limit. And when it was time to move on, I moved on. The next form of treatment is medication, but I don't even really want to talk about this here because brain medications have wreaked a lot of havoc on me and I just don't believe in it anymore. I have no issues with you if you're a person who stands behind medication, but it's just not something that I'm going to promote in this space. Another form of treatment is somatic therapy, and this is something I very much can get behind. It involves nurturing the connection between your mind and body through awareness and gentle movement. As such, it's highly intertwined with mindfulness, which is another form of treatment. Practices like yoga, meditation, tai chi, these are all things that can help turn the volume down on that fight or flight response. I think another overlooked form of therapy is living a healthy life. Getting adequate nutrition, hydration, and movement into your day. Get your blood work done. Find out if there's any supplements that you should be adding to your diet. Plan out your days to include something you enjoy, something intellectually stimulating, or something social. Take it slow, but be intentional. Also often overlooked is art and music therapy. These creative outlets can be highly soothing for people who have C-PTSD. And a final form of treatment that I'm going to add based on my own experience is a sense of purpose or meaning. This can change and evolve at different parts in your life. You can have more than one, but it's important to find something to live for. For me, it's always been my cats. Even when I've had nothing else, taking care of them is what gives me strength to keep going. And now I'm trying to build a new purpose for myself. Through this channel, I want to help other people who have C-PTSD and are feeling alone or broken. Hi, Pepper. If I can take these horrible things and turn them into something that helps other people, then it'll be worth it. And the fifth thing you should know, can C-PTSD be cured? I could not find any documented case of C-PTSD being cured. I think that with good treatment, individuals experience significant improvement in their symptoms. I can say this because this is happening to me right now. Bad days still happen, but at least I'm moving in the right direction. Just remember these next 5 things. 1, there is no sudden miracle cure, and don't trust anyone who says that there is. 2, healing takes time. You don't go from 100 to 0 overnight. 3, healing takes practice. You need to put in the work. 4, healing is a process that ebbs and flows. A bad day or a bad trigger doesn't mean you aren't making any progress. And 5, everyone is unique. What works for one person may not work for the next, and that's okay. You just need to find what does work for you. If you've stumbled on this video, I am one small person with a big goal of helping as many people as possible to feel less alone. If you can get behind this goal, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing. Any one of those things tells the algorithm gods that this content is worth spreading, so your participation is greatly appreciated. And if you're a repeat viewer, I couldn't be more grateful for you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. You can hear my dog breathing. I feel like, is that a bad microphone or a good microphone? Because I feel like it's a good microphone, but then I also feel like that is bad. I'm just not having fun recently. All right, well, we've got some gentle dog breaths in the video. We're just gonna go with it. I'm not drinking for real. I'm drinking fake. See, it has a unicorn. I've got the perfectionism bug today, and I'm just gonna embrace it. You know, I'm perfectionist today, and I'm not gonna PTSD is in there. Why are my feet numb? I'm literally just sitting. Oh my god, that's really numb. That's like floppy. Ew, is my foot floppy? Your brain made these neurological pathways to protect you. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Oh. That's good, Pepper. You just want a piece of me? You can have a piece of me. You can have the whole cake.